We now know the 16-man squad for the Ashes in Australia. Let's get straight to it then. These are the batters, mostly, as you'd expect, England's usual top seven, joined by Jacob Bethell as the reserve batter. The surprise inclusion, you'd have to say, is that of Will Jacks as the spin bowling all-rounder. He's only played 2 tests, both 3 years ago, but has been preferred to Rehan Ahmed and Liam Dawson. As for the bowling group, it sees Jacks join Shoaib Bashir in the spin ranks. Ben Stokes is alongside 6 specialist fast bowlers. They are Jofra Archer, Gus Atkinson, Bryden Cast, Matthew Potts, Josh Tongue and the fit again Mark Wood. There is no place for Woakes then, who's injured his shoulder back in July, if you remember. Before that, there is a white ball series in New Zealand. Those squads have also been announced today, and there are call-ups for the all-rounders Sam Curran and Liam Dawson. Bowler Luke Wood is also in the squad after impressing in the T20 side. Zach Crawley has received his first call-up to the T20 squad. Ben Duckett, Jamie Smith and Jofra Archer will be rested for the T20 series. For instant reaction to this, we are joined by someone who played in 3 Ashes series himself, Dominic Cork. Always lovely to see you, Dom. Thanks for joining us. A huge series awaits then. What are your first impressions of this squad? Any big surprises for you?
I don't think there's any big surprises. Afternoon, Vicky. Afternoon, everybody. Yeah, I think it was widely speculated that the vice captaincy was going to be given, obviously. And I think the way that they've actually set their side up, I think you can see that the major surprise probably for what you're saying there is Will Jacks, but he's not a surprise because if you look at how England have been successful in Australia, it's been with off spin. So Harry Brook obviously will be vice captain, but then you look at the likes of Bashir, Will Jacks, Joe Root. Yes, obviously Jacob Bethell can bowl a little bit of spin, but I don't see any big surprises in there. They're going to go pace orientated. They start at Perth, which is one of the quickest wickets in Australia. And with the record that England have got recently in Australia, it should be a great series.
Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned Will Jacks, may have surprised a few people. It's been almost 3 years since his last Test cap. Is that any worries at all?
No, because I think he's been around enough franchise cricket. I think he knows his game really well. He's liked by Rob Key, and I was at this game where he made this Test debut in Bangladesh. He's played in all 3 forms of the game, so he knows a bit about Test cricket. Look, it's a big difference playing a Test series in Bangladesh and then going out to Australia. But he's a very good cricketer. He's a multifaceted cricketer, as we call now. And he's right up Brendan McCullum's street. This Baz Ball, he hates, obviously, the name Baz Ball, but he's an aggressive batter. He's a great fielder and he can bowl off spin. So in some ways, it's not a surprise. I think they've stacked it with a lot of pace bowling. And with the fact that off spinners with Graham Swan, go back to Robert Croft, Peter Such, John Embry, over the period of times in Ashes series have been successful, and hence why Jacks will get probably a nod ahead of Liam Dawson.
OK. What about Harry Brook then, replacing Ollie Pope as vice-captain? Can you understand the thinking behind that?
Yes, I think if we go back to the beginning of this season when there was speculation on whether Jacob Bethell would get straight into a Test side ahead of Ollie Pope, then Ollie Pope obviously scores runs against Zimbabwe. And to be fair to Ollie Pope, he deserves to be in that number 3 position. I think this gives England an option if Ollie Pope doesn't score runs, that then they're able to bring Jacob Bethell straight in. Brook is obviously, a talented multi-format player. He obviously captains the white ball team now. So for me, it's an easy step up. They obviously work well with Brendan McCullum. And in some ways, the way that Harry Brook has shown what he's done in Test cricket and what he's done in the white ball form of the game, it doesn't surprise me in any way. And like I say, I think it gives England options then that they're not having to drop a vice-captain, because the vice-captain, Harry Brook, will always play unless he's out of form. OK. Let's talk about the disappointment then, because that has to be for Chris Woakes. It means that shoulder injury in the final Test against India at the Oval looks to have ended his chances. Just explain how much they're going to miss him. Yeah, control will be England's issue throughout the Ashes, because whatever England try and do, Australia have always been this positive batting lineup. Hence why you've got Carson, Potts there to give England control with the pace on offer of Jofra Archer and Wood. We'll always concede runs. What Woakes brought was similar to what Jimmy Anderson brought, in a way that when he wasn't taking wickets, and obviously Jimmy Anderson took a lot of wickets, so does Chris Woakes, and he's a fine test bowler. They'll miss that control. They'll miss that little bit of swing that he creates. Obviously, it's different scenarios, different ball with the cooker of a ball, so the ball doesn't swing as long, and also it's drier conditions. So in some ways, I feel very hurt for Chris Woakes. I hope he can come back and still be a part of that England setup. But I think that's why, you know, when you look at what we're going to show you now, you just worry that, is this going to be the last Test match we see Chris Woakes play for England? I hope it isn't. He's been a fine servant. He's a very good bowler. And hopefully he can get back playing at the highest level. Yeah,
I would agree with that. OK, let's talk about the spinner then, Rehan Ahmed. He also looked to be in line for recall, didn't he? The all-rounder had a pretty impressive summer with both a bat and ball for his county Leicestershire. Are you surprised that he's been overlooked, or would you say that's a really good vote of confidence for Shoaib Bashir?
I think it's a vote of confidence. I think we've seen that they really back Shoaib Bashir. I think he's obviously still coming and getting used to actually bowling. He's not played a lot of cricket. If you look at the amount of first-class games that he's played, and Rob Key will bat that away and say it doesn't matter. If you're good enough to play Test cricket, you're good enough, which I agree he is. I think the reason is the reason why he's ahead of Rehan Ahmed is simple, because Australians naturally struggle against off spinners more than they struggle against probably Rehan Ahmed or a leg spinner. And that's been part and parcel of the Ashes series for a period of time. Maybe you will see him on, you know, obviously he's in the white ball squads. I think we'll see him on an England A tour, which obviously mirrors the Ashes series out there. So I think you'll see the likes of Liam Dawson out there. I think you'll see the likes of Rehan Ahmed out there, that if there is an injury, that they can just pluck them straight out of the Lions side, straight into the Ashes side, and they're there. They haven't got to fly over, and I think that's perfect.
That makes sense. What about Ben Stokes then? Obviously, he's been recovering from his own shoulder issues, hasn't he? He's going to captain the side, of course. How key is he to England's chances?
Well, he's massive, because if you look at his record as captain, not just as a captain, but also as a player, he leads from the front, and I think he commands respect, of course, and he demands respect on the pitch as well. He wants people to play in that flamboyant style, which I think is great when you go over to Australia. Look, it's a difficult place to go and play and win a Test series. England's last win there, 2010-11, when they beat Australia 3-1. The last three series, 5-0, 4-0, 4-0. So that's what they're up against. And what Stokes will say is, forget the past, forget the history. We create history by how we play. And I think what he shows and what he brings to the team is he backs his players. He leads from the front. And the one little bit of advice is just take your time. Get back to full fitness. Don't push yourself too much. Because if England are going to win the Ashes or try and get those Ashes back, he's got to play in all 5 Test matches. And that'll be, you know, it'll be tough on him coming back from that shoulder injury. But it doesn't surprise him in any way if he doesn't play all 5 and England win.
Yeah, just a word on Stokes. How impressive is he? Because sometimes that England captaincy has weighed heavy on them in the past, hasn't it?
It has, and I've played with a few who it did weigh heavy, and it's always Australia or World Cups where you see England captains either resign or get sacked. Look, he's a sort of individual that is really, he sets the bar really high. And I think that's important for any international, not just cricket team, but an international sports team. When you've got a captain who shows you exactly what he wants you to do, when he works as hard as you do, you only have to follow him, like we're showing here, his Instagram. He's been working so hard at Durham. He's been outside sprinting, which on a day like today is nice, but he'll be doing it in the pouring of rain because he's desperate to get back to that fitness. And I think that is what is key for him. He's worked hard on his fitness. And he wants to lead, and I think that's important. And him and Brendan McCullum have obviously got a very good relationship. Throw in Rob Key as well, so it's imperative that he gets back to full fitness. I think he's one of England's best captains up there. I think he tries to make it happen. He tries to influence the game, and that's what you want as a captain. You don't want a captain who just stands off. You want a captain who leads you and says, right, we're going to go this way. This is how we're going to do it. And we may have a few disappointments. We may lose a few games in the process, but we're going to go this way, and we're going to try and beat one of the best teams, which is Australia.
OK. You did mention Jacob Bethell a little bit earlier, and he finished the summer really strongly with the bat. There has been a lot made about his status within the Test squad, though. Is this the right call, though, in your opinion?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I think we all know that Jacob Bethell is a very talented cricketer. He hasn't played a lot of cricket. He hasn't played a lot of the longer form of the game. But when you can do this on the Test field, when you've got the sort of confidence that he has. I just think it's a must. At times, sometimes in England, we hold back youngsters thinking it's the right thing to do. But if you look at some of the greats that have been in our game, in other forms of the game or the sports, they just throw them in. And it looks like it's a natural process for him to play at the highest level. And great to see him do well. Great to see him get a list A or a one-day international 100 in the recent series against South Africa. So I have got no problem with him playing, being in the squad, even being in that first Test match. I just think throw the players in there that don't have scars, who back their own ability, and will hopefully win the Ashes for England, because we all want to see that.
We certainly do. Look, let's talk about the bowlers then. Mark Wood back from injury. Jofra Archer included alongside Gus Atkinson, Bryden Carse and Josh Tongue. Matthew Potts, who hasn't played since 2024, makes the cut as well. Happy with that attack?
Yeah, because I think you've got pace and you've got a little bit of where the captain can go to the likes of Potts and Carse and say, let's just sit in a minute. It's not quite going as we want it to go, because we know that Archer and Wood, they're going to create some fire. They're going to really upset the Australians. They're going to go at them. There's going to be a bit of chirping going on the ground, from the stadium. The Aussie fans are going to be into them. I just think it's a lovely mix. Gus Atkinson obviously is a lovely inclusion as well, because he's got pace, he's got swing, he can bat as well. I think it's a lovely mix. It's not going to be easy for them, because Australia are going to come at them. There's going to be some very flat wickets. But when you've got the pace, when you're bowling late 80s, early 90s, it upsets a lot of international batters around the world.
Which is good to hear. We know what we want. Let's finish with predictions then. How do you think England will fare? I was going to say we will fare, but I'm trying not to be so partisan. How do you think England will fare against the Australians this winter, Dom?
I think England will win. I'm not going to do a Glenn McGrath and say 5-0. That's just ridiculous. I'm sure he'll come out and say 5-0 again. I see an England win. I think it's going to be closer than what a lot of people believe. Remember, that second Test match in the Gabba is a day-night game, so that's slightly different. It's normally been Adelaide that's been the day-night game, and they're starting off one of the quickest pitches in Perth. This new stadium, the Optus Stadium in Perth, is one of the quickest wickets there. So that might suit England. But look, it's going to be a great series. I'm going to say 2-1 England.